quick introduction, he's the Managing Director of Geoffrey Moore Consulting, Venture Partner Moore David Howe, Chairman Emeritus of Chasm Group Advisors, Chasm Institute, Chasm Group, and you guys probably most know him about his books, which are awesome. So Crossing the Chasm, Inside the Tornado, Living on the Fault Line, Dealing with Darling Escape Velocity. So with that, let's give a big warm welcome to Geoff Moore.
There he is. Okay, cool. All right. Well, so as Dan mentioned, Crossing the Chasm came out in 1990, and it's stuck around for a long time. I think the reason it's stuck around, okay. The reason I think it's stuck around for a long time is the framework actually sizes up a particular set of challenges for high-tech companies that have never gone away. And it's particularly where you're going to see one of the things about what's new and what's not. What we've learned over the last decade and a half is that B2B is the sweet spot for Crossing the Chasm, and B2C you need to work the frameworks a bit. It's more naturally a B2B framework. So just let me get a question here. If you had to describe your business as more B2B, and then I'll do B2C, and then maybe I'll do B2C. But how many people here are in a classic B2B business, if any? Okay. How many here are in a pretty classic B2C business? And how many people would say B to B to C? Yeah, I think, by the way, Medallia is a B2B2C company, if you think about it, particularly for the consumer brands that they're doing. Okay, so what I want to do here is just kind of, I'm going in and out. Is that me or is that the, oh no. Oh, okay, fair enough. I'm going to recap the frameworks. The key takeaway from this framework is you're going to see at a certain point, there are 4 inflection points in the development of a high-tech market and the adoption of a technology. Each inflection point has a natural playbook that goes with it. If you play by the playbook that fits the inflection point, your chances of being successful are reasonably good. If you play with any of the other playbooks at that time, they're very bad. So, so getting an entire team on the same playbook at the right time, that's the game problem. That's the problem you should install in your mind. How do I get my entire team on the same play for the right point in the life cycle, and then what's the playbook for that play? So let me kind of show you how that works out. Just to tee this thing up, what we all have in common in this room, what we all have in common in this valley, is this is arguably the center point, or at least one of the great center points of disruptive innovation. And there's an enormous amount of wealth creation. We're right now living in a very, very privileged time. The 1990s, late 1990s, was another very, very privileged time. We used to call that period the time of the great happiness because just everybody thought they were going to have to start a foundation. Right now, it's a little bit more aggressive, but right now there's an enormous amount of wealth being created because everybody's eating somebody's lunch, right? So software is eating hardware. That's pretty much Mark Andreessen's view of things. OpEx is eating CapEx, so that's SaaS eating on-premise kinds of things, and services are eating products. And so, as a result, there's an enormous amount of food out there that can be consumed, right? And the point about those 3 things on the right is they all have trapped value in them that the things on the left are exploiting. So the way in which you create wealth is you find a source of trapped value, and you're offering. This is just crazy. You know what? Hold on. I'm going to turn this off. Can you guys? Can you hear me? Or is it pretty bad in the back? It's probably pretty bad, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, I'll try it again. Okay, hold on. Maybe if I just don't move. At the moment, it's kind of working. How about if I just don't move? See what happens. Okay. So, and the things that are allowing you to release the trapped value, the novel technologies, are the classic social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. And now we're adding Internet of Things. So there's like 5 horsemen of the apocalypse, and they're all in play right now. And most people in this room are leveraging 2 or 3 of these as a point of leverage to free trap value that's caught up in legacy systems at this time. It's a very, very big deal. And for the rest of this decade, this seems like a playbook that's just going to keep on giving, the gift that keeps on giving. When you think about that, though, in terms of, that's the good news about disruption. The bad news about disruption is it is challenging to manage, particularly if you're in high-tech marketing or product marketing, product management, because these new offers are high risk, particularly for another business. I'm going to I'm going to deploy my business, I'm going to put my business in play based on some technology you're offering. It's not proven. It's potentially incompatible with the stuff I already use. And there's social resistance to change. That said, last week in San Francisco, the DeSoto Cab Company painted all 800 cabs bright red, relabeled the company Flywheel, and put out an Uber app for themselves. It's not called Uber, obviously, but because mobile was eating dispatch, right? And the taxi business in San Francisco was killed. So it may be high risk, but if you're in trouble, as you're going to see in one of the plays.
You know what, let's just switch to this. Sorry about that.
All right. Okay. Okay. That's fine. Okay. So if but for most people, if you're not under pressure, that risk is like, well, can I wait a little while? And you're going to see that that's going to be the key to this chasm idea. The other problem is there's no data. And when there's no data, it's like, well, okay, I get your story. I read your PowerPoint. That's very good. You don't have any references. Could we just, maybe we could have a trial? And so you have this issue of, high risk, low data buying decisions. And that really was that's the key concept behind the whole technology adoption lifecycle. How will a community respond to the offer of a very attractive value proposition that is bolted onto a high-risk, low-data buying decision? And it turns out the answer to that question was first figured out by a guy named Everett Rogers in the late 1950s. And his research was called Diffusion of Innovation. And when we took that research into the tech community in the 70s and 80s, we ended up calling it the technology adoption lifecycle. It's the same research. Basically, it says one very simple claim. If you introduce a disruptive innovation into any community, the community will self-segregate into 5 different responses. And the key idea of developing a technology is that you work the curve from left to right. So at the beginning of the thing, there are the innovators, then there are the early adopters, the early majority, the late majority, and the laggards. And so let me just kind of put these people in front of you with a little kind of picture. So innovator, technology enthusiast. Yeah, that's Sheldon. Love is in the air? Wrong. Nitrogen, oxygen, carbon dioxide are in the air, right? I mean, that would be it. Okay, so this is the very first person who engages with disruptive technology, largely because they are interested in the technology itself. Okay, this is what they care about. So they want to learn about the new technologies. They've got strong aptitude for technical information. They're often smarter than you are. They like to alpha test new products. In fact, if you publish your bug list, they'll update it. Your product only runs on one version of one machine. That's okay. I'll get a machine, or give me one, please. And they love to demonstrate their own expertise. So they'll get on blogs. They'll because they're playing some version of I'm the smartest person in the room, and I should share that, right? Challenges. When you have them as a customer, they want to talk to the head, the inventor, and it's usually between 2 and 4 in the morning, right? Because it's important. And so that's a bit of a challenge, particularly if you work in a corporation. And then they don't have any money. So as a customer, that's usually bad quality. But it turns out at the beginning, these people are key, because if you're introducing a truly disruptive technology, the first thing the world has to know is does this have some sort of 10x potential? Is this really a game changer or not? Doesn't mean we're going to buy it if it is, but if it's not, we're kind of done. So you can't just drive past the technology enthusiast. You have to engage them, and in fact, you kind of want to engage them. They really are your alpha test, beta test folks, and if they actually end up committing to you, they will give you an enormous amount of free labor. So it's really an important thing to do. That said, you haven't made a cent yet, so the payroll's coming up. So you say, okay, who's next? Well, next is the visionaries, and we know a lot of visionaries in our industries, and this is probably the one that has the most recognition, and deservedly so. But who is a visionary? Well, a visionary is somebody who says, look, I see the disruptive potential. I know enough about technology, or I have somebody who's informing me. This is a 10x game changer. This will change. 3D printing will eventually change something. We're pretty sure of that. What? We don't know. When? We don't know. But we think it will. So then the question is, can I take that technology and use it in my business sector, to change the rules of engagement and take things to a different place. This is what Uber has done to transportation. This is what Airbnb is doing to hospitality. We've seen this is what Amazon did to retail, right? So if you think about the first two groups, Mark Andreessen was more of an innovator. Mark designed Mosaic at University of Illinois Champaign-Urbana. Mosaic became the basis of Netscape. Netscape changed forever the way in which we engage with information on the internet. That said, Bezos was Amazon. Bezos did not invent any of the technology. He said, I can apply this to e-commerce. Now what's interesting about that is Netscape no longer exists as a company, right? It was bought by Sun. Sun no longer exists as a company. Right? But the technologies never go away. The technologies are still here. But it's an interesting thing. The technology-based companies tend to lose their place in lines of, whereas Amazon is still eating the world. Right? So it's an and that is a little bit of the difference between an innovator, a technology enthusiast, and a visionary. These people, by the way, if you have a disruptive innovation, they're the ones who will pay up big for it first. They will do a big project with you. They'll put a lot of money into it. The challenges that they have are they want immediate time to market, and they want it their way. And their way is never your roadmap. So if your roadmap is going north, their way is east to southeast, right? But the thing is, they've got a big check, and they're going to put you on the map, and so you kind of, you swallow deeply, and you figure out some way. And you can't do too many of these, because if you do 2 or 3 or 4 of these, it's basically like tying your arms to 4 different horses and saying, giddy up. You will just destroy yourself. But if you don't have any of these, you don't get on the map. So having a marquee client is a really important thing in the early market. The pragmatists are the third group, and notice it's a group. That's the key to pragmatists. Pragmatists do not make decisions individually. They make decisions as groups. And the way they make decisions is they say, are you doing this yet? Are you? No? 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 Okay, me neither. Good. Okay? That is the buying decision process of a pragmatist. By the way, you are? You are? You are? Oh shit, me too. Okay. So it's a very clear decision process. It actually works very well. It works for antelope. It works for people, right? You smell a lion? No, I'm fine. Okay. Oh, lion! Boom. Okay. Junior high dance, same problem, right? So the point about that is the pragmatist is where the volume comes from, and it also, because they move as a herd, they're going to create this weird dynamic of chasm and tornado, because when they're not coming in, there's nothing happening, and when they do come in, it changes the dynamic dramatically. So what about them? Well, their preference is not for disruption. Their preference is for evolution, not revolution. So their first thought is, man, all this disruptive stuff, I don't know. I mean, I guess sometime I'm going to use it, but not yet, or at least is it really ready for prime time? And that's what I'm continually checking with my friends about. Having said that, when they do become customers, they're very pragmatic, so they're very practical. They give you very good advice. And the stuff that they want fixed needs to get fixed. So I mean, they're not visionaries. They're not trying to make you build the underwater version of your product, right? They're just saying, you know, it'd be really nice if when you hit the button, it actually changed the page, stuff like that. And they're into references, and they also want to see things in production. So they really care about that. Now the last two groups are important, but for most of the folks in the room, not in the time frame that we're interested in. The conservatives are the people who basically, if you notice, he's got a, I don't know if it's a fax machine or a printer. It's as far away from him as he can put it. Conservative people are not comfortable with technology. Their goal in life is just not to get too far behind. Right? So just keep me to the point where, you know, I'm not like failing to be a citizen. And you know, I'll use the technology as little as possible. I want to pay as little as possible for it. It doesn't work for me. Technology products sense fear, and they know I'm in the room, and they'll stop working when I'm in the room. And they need a lot of help, but they don't want to pay for it. So now, having said that, they're very loyal once they are a customer, and they'll you know, these are people that will use BlackBerries probably 10 years from now, right? I mean, because I learned how to use it, I'm not going to change it. And then there are the skeptics who just basically think you know, you guys are all instruments of the devil. And you guys have no idea. This law of unintended consequences, you know, you just don't know you're lying. I mean, your PowerPoint, it's a vehicle for lying. And so these folks are not customers, but they often prevent deals. So you will run into them in your marketplace. And they're really saying this is just a bad idea. Now the point about this model, and here's what we learned about it. The idea was, well, okay, work it from left to right, right? Win some innovators, get them excited about the technology, help them, get some visionaries. When you get a few visionaries, they'll be good references. Go get the pragmatists will build it up. Whatever the pragmatists do, the conservatives will do next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and the hell with the laggards, right? And it'll work. What we found out instead was the first two groups gravitated toward the disruption. They actually proactively reached out for it. They cooperated with you. They even kind of hallucinated with you on the vision here, and they created something we call the early market. The early market is characterized by projects, big projects, highly visible deals, lots of grandiose pronouncements. This is the future of everything, and that kind of thing. And there's usually 2 or 3 companies that are doing something pretty spectacular, and the press loves it. And it's the kind of stuff you talk about at conference, and it's great. And then we ran into this thing called the chasm, which is what we didn't expect. We thought once we had our visionaries, they'd be great references for the pragmatists. It turns out they were horrible references for the pragmatists. The pragmatists are the people that clean up after the visionaries are fired, right? So they don't like each other at all. And so the chasm was the pragmatists holding back, going, you know what, I don't think this is ready. You're doing this yet? Yeah, no. 3D, you're not like 3D printing anything real, are you? No, just like a car key, right? I mean, like a tchotchke, right? Yeah, that's all we're doing. Okay, good. So they're not doing anything. And the question, and so what we realize is, if you're like, think of technology adoption as starting a fire, you have to start the fire twice. You got to start the fire on the left and get it really hot and burning and bright so people learn about you. And then you got to start the fire on the right of the chasm. But the wood on the left is like dry and tendrous, and the wood on the right is very wet. It doesn't want to light on fire. And so what we learned was, we said, well, who in the world would be the first pragmatist? If the pragmatist says, well, I'm not doing it until you do it, and you're not going to do it until he does it, and he's not going to do it until she does it, who's going to do it first? It turned out what we learned was pragmatists in pain will act differently than pragmatists otherwise. A pragmatist in pain is someone in a business who's in charge of a business process that has just gotten broken. It's gotten broken off. It could be any number of reasons, but increasingly it's because some other technology is broken. So if you're in charge of, the retail store operations at Macy's, and all of a sudden you're watching your in-store traffic go down, it's like, or if you just bought 2,000 retail banks for the Bank of America, and you've discovered in your focus groups that your customers say branch banks are creepy, this is not a good moment, right? This is like, well, maybe we should get a mobile banking app, like now, okay? So this is a pragmatic person who would have said normally, well, we can wait, but not now, not now. And so these are pragmatists in pain. They're typically in high-value use cases. They're usually in vertical markets. Luke and I were having an interesting discussion about that. They're not always in verticals, but that's a very typical thing. And inside that vertical, everybody knows there's trouble brewing. And everybody's looking at everybody saying, well, what the hell are you doing about it? And so as a result, it's like the pragmatists are all up, they're kind of like in motion like this, right? And so if you can bring a solution into that community, and it works, it spreads like wildfire. So you get this amazing quick adoption, but just inside that one use case. And that use case carries you forward. So then the bowling alley idea was, well, one use case does not make a company. Can we find another use case? Can we find an adjacent use case? Can we find an adjacent market segment? Can we go forward? And there's a period, depending on how hard the technology is to adopt and how disruptive it is to the ecosystem, this can take longer or shorter. But you have a period where vertical, use case specific, is the way the market develops. And then, if enough use cases get in play, people start saying, hang on, this is not, we don't have like word processing for lawyers, although God knows they need it. We have word processing for doctors, we have word processing for everybody. This is horizontal, this is not vertical. And that's when the great fortunes in high tech were made. When all of a sudden you could go from specific use case specific offers to products. And products then, by the way, would become ubiquitous. Relatively standard product, or now increasingly it's a SaaS product or a product as a service. But it's a relatively standard offer, and it goes ubiquitous, virtually the same device. Like it is an Apple iPhone. They're not different from each other. It's an Apple iPhone, right? Or it's a Google Android phone, or it's Wi-Fi, or it's something that's saying, look, we just need to make this pervasive as infrastructure. Once it gets pervasive, then it becomes the opportunity to say, okay, now we can start building on top of this thing. It may be all we do is just add consumables, but sometimes these products become platforms. And when a product becomes a platform, that is the power position of tech. So you'll hear a lot of companies saying, well, we're a platform. Well, be careful. If you say you're a platform, I have to kill you. Right? Because if you're a platform, really, and you become a platform, you get to extract significant monopoly rents from the world. So the world's going, well, we can't have another platform. Sorry. But if you become a product, if you're ubiquitous as a product, and after you are ubiquitous as a product, you then offer yourself as a platform, it's a fait accompli. See, now you're there. The reason the Intel Inside marketing campaign was so successful was because Intel was inside. Right? It was there. Microsoft became ubiquitous as part of the IBM PC, not because it was a platform. It wasn't until afterwards that you went, oh yeah, it's a platform. Intel, oh yeah, it's a platform. That's why we called it Wintel. Windows and Intel was the single most powerful platform of my generation, by far. Okay? So those are the four stages, and the key idea behind these stages, and this is the key takeaway. This is sort of the money slide for the whole thing, is each one of these stages lends itself to a playbook. So the early market, the key idea here is that visionary is going ahead of the herd. They want to be first. They want first mover advantage. They'd actually like to have an exclusive because they think they've seen the future and they'd like to actually book the future before anybody else does. So they're going to go forward with you. And what they want is a project. So even if you sell a product, that's not what they bought. You sold a product, they bought a project. Basically, actually, they think they bought a seat on your board of directors. When a visionary gives you a large check, it's like, I own you. I have your mobile phone, I know where you live, I own you. And until this project is done, we're not done. And by the way, my referencing, my testimonial on your behalf is huge for you. And so I have something of great value to you, but I'm not going to give it to you until my project is done. And the way that the reason visionaries feel pretty comfortable with this strategy is even if you go out of business, you can complete their project, right? So Walmart got the RFID, right? Nobody else, actually, RFID did not become pervasive in retail, but Walmart got it, and it worked for Walmart. Okay? So that's the theory. So when you're in this stage, your company, even though it was funded, let's say, to be a product company or a service company, a standard offer company, at this stage, you are a project team. And when you get a big client at this stage, which is what you want, to put your name on the map, we are working with, American Express. We are working with Apple. We'll never let you say that, but you can say it. We're working with a company in Cupertino. That's code track. We're working with. When you get one of those, then that company knows you are their project team. You can't do it very often. In fact, probably only can do it once or twice. But it's really key to do it. Now, the key idea then is at this stage, you can only take a marquee customer under these deals. So these are called BHDs, big, hairy deals. Okay? The thing you cannot take at this time is SLD. That's a shitty little deal. The problem with an SLD, by the way, is the customer thinks they have the same rights as the BHD because, they're risking their company too. The problem is if they win, nobody cares. Nobody cares, right? It's like, oh, that's Taco Bell, well done. Like who? So the key here is you have to work with a marquee company. Now, when you cross the chasm, the key is you've got to find a great trapped value use case. That's the key. Where there's an enormous amount of trapped value, maybe painfully so, and your technology just with the help of other pieces, what we call the whole product, Your technology solves for the problem. You just take it. This is like, I was diagnosed with a disease, you have the cure for my disease. It's like, I'm not going to negotiate price, whatever the hell it is, I need whatever you got. So proven application from segment-focused vendors. Because what you can't do at this stage is say, well, I provided my product, the customer has to pull together the rest of the solution. No, the customer, it's too early in the adoption lifecycle. You have to orchestrate the rest of the solution, which means you have to learn a lot about the customer's problem, and that's not why you're in business. You're in business for some technological reason. This customer's got a business problem that, you understand it, you're not stupid, but this is not why you founded the company. But when you're crossing the chasm, it is the single most important thing your company can do. Because what will happen is, if you solve for this use case once, twice, 3, 4, 5, remember, these pragmatists are in pain, they're talking to each other. All of a sudden, that whole word of mouth community goes, guys, there is a solution. Here's how it works. Here's what you do. And all of a sudden, your phone starts to ring. You didn't even know it had a ringer prior to this, right? And you're pretty sure it's a wrong number. But people are calling you and they're asking you to come out and talk to them about your product. Okay? And that makes you, as a startup, that turns you from being a possible company into an actual company. Once you've won one niche market, it's extremely difficult for your company to go out of existence, because that market needs you to stay in existence. So you're not yet a huge venture success. You don't have vacation homes in the Caribbean islands yet, but you have a real company, and they have a stake in you, and you have a stake in them. And by the way, this is good margin business. You don't discount when you're crossing the chasm, just like you don't discount, for like emergency surgery. You don't go like, heart surgery, $9.99. Bring this coupon Saturday mornings. It's like, no, I want the real deal. Okay? Now, the next one is, okay, now the category has caught on. This is now becoming pervasive. And there becomes a huge land grab, market share land grab in the market as people realize, whoever's going to stake out the high ground in mobile phones, whoever's going to stake out the high ground in social networks, whoever's going to stake out the high ground in cloud computing, this is going to be a very, very valuable category to lead. And so you do an enormous amount of very, very aggressive go-to-market things. Here, if you're a product manager, the critical thing is get your next version of the product out on cadence all the time. One of the things that made it so powerful in this last decade is when we went from the product release cycle of 2 to 3 years to the SaaS thing of like, no, we ship on Fridays. This continuous drip thing. Because now all of a sudden, you're tornado pacing. You can update your product. And by the way, when you update once, it goes to everybody. The product release model was a boat anchor. It was the only way you could get things done in the 20th century, but boy, it feels good to leave that one behind with the whole as a service model. And then the last one is, okay, now we've got our customers. Now we're number 2, we're number 3, we're number 5, we're number 7, we're number 10 in the category. But whatever we are, we're probably not going to change our status very much, for at least not in the short term. So the issue now is make the most of the territory you've conquered. Work with those customers, get them to upsell. This is now we can do land and expand. Now we can grow the market. We can upsell and cross sell and all those kind of good things. But you see, the point about that thing is, well, those are 4 different playbooks. I'm magic. Conservative census here. Those are 4 separate playbooks. People who are good at the early market, who are these charismatic visionary salespeople and the project people that fulfill them, that playbook is no good after the early market. It's too expensive, it's too one-off, it doesn't scale. Okay? The bowling alley playbook isn't aggressive enough for the early market. It's perfect for crossing the chasm, but it doesn't scale either at some point. You'll see a lot of tech companies, for example, get stuck in a single vertical. Now, stuck in a single vertical, maybe at $1 billion, that doesn't feel like total failure to me, right? But it's not horizontal, right? It gets capped. The tornado play is amazing if you have a tornado opportunity. A lot of your companies have made mistakes in hiring tornado salespeople when you're not in the tornado, because they have this amazing resume. The truth is, they were in the right place at the right time. Yeah. I took Oracle from 500 million to 5 billion. Yes, you were present, right? And there was a tornado. Yes. But it doesn't. But when you're in a tornado, you really do. This is like don't bring a knife to a gunfight. When you're in a tornado, you need tornado people who are hyper aggressive. This is a once in a lifetime land grab in your category, and if you don't grab it now, somebody else did. So you can sort of see how that is. But then that wears out its welcome pretty quickly. Customers hate vendors by the end of a tornado, right? Because they've been promised everything and gotten virtually nothing, right? So then Main Street is a time when you actually use farmers more than hunters. You're building relationships. You're now going forward, working together as partners. The last thing I want to say, so do you see what I mean about the 4 playbooks and how important it is when you're in your company? Which playbook are we on? Do we all agree we're on the same playbook? What you will discover most of the time is one or more people on your team think you're on a different place in the life cycle than the other people do. And when that happens, by the way, they could be right, but it doesn't matter. If any part of the team is playing one playbook and the rest of the team is doing a second playbook, the results are very suboptimal, very quickly. So it's really important to have the dialogue around this conversation saying, look, we don't know for sure which of these states our market is in, and maybe one part of our market is in one state, one part's another, but we're not big enough to pretend to play all these hands. We have to play one hand at a time here, so which one are we going to play? And have that discussion. The final point I want to make is those first 2, which are key to startups, have one thing in common. There's no budget. Budget happens during the tornado. During the tornado, people in the IT department or whatever infrastructure department buys your technology get a line item in their budget for your offer. Prior to the tornado, there is no such line item. So that means you have to go to the line of business side of the house, tell your story, secure their support. In the visionary case, the visionary creates the budget, just literally creates it from someplace completely external to the technology group. In the bowling alley case, they often have a budget for remediating the problem, and they redirect that budget to the IT solution to solve the problem. But in both cases, the IT person, and I'm pretty much an IT guy, in that IT world, the IT person doesn't have a budget until the tornado, so you have to help them get budget. You have to actually help create the budget before you can consume it. That is a very challenging sales motion. And you have to be able to speak the language of the customer's business before you can actually speak the language of technology with them. So that's a key issue. Okay, so what does that sound like? I'll just give you a couple of dialogues in the early market. Hi, breakthrough technology is changing the rules, and the customer says, well, I was thinking about doing an amazing thing. Can your 3D printer allow me to print aircraft parts when I'm circling on a space station, right? And you say, well, tell me more about it. What parts are you going to try to make on that space station? Well, here's my vision. And usually after a while you say, well, I think we have about 35, 40, 50% of that solution, but it would take a special project to complete it. And the guy says, well, I can get funding, which makes you feel pretty good. Well, why don't we pull together a team and scope this thing out more fully? Okay, let's get on this right away. That would be sort of like the ideal cartoon of a visionary sale, but that's kind of what happens. You dangle out some magical beans. They figure out the beanstalk. They figure out the giant. They figure out the bowl. They can do the whole thing. And by the end of it, what they end up doing is scoping a project. Because at the end of the day, they can spend money on a project. And so that's how they do it. In the bowling alley, it goes, we've been working with some people in your segment about this retail problem. And is this Uber thing causing any problems for you? And the guy goes, are you kidding me? Our sales are down, 35%, whatever the heck it is. Everybody's struggling with it. Well, here's some of the symptoms we're seeing. Nobody's calling your cab. Your cab. Yes. That's not the half of it. And so now what you're seeing in this dialogue, really, and by the way, all you're doing now is just saying, does it hurt here? Does it hurt here? I mean, you're feeling like a doctor. And they're spilling their guts. I mean, they are telling you the pain of their life. And all you're doing is you're writing it down. So you're showing that you're respecting, you listen to them, you write it down, and they keep on going and going and going. Now what happens here is they are turning you into a trusted advisor. And all you're doing to earn that is you are listening, and you are asking good questions, and you are making thoughtful responses. That's it. You're not selling them anything. They're selling themselves. They're just swallowing this deeper and deeper and deeper, because they're sharing their pain with you. By the way, once they've done it with one person, they don't want to do it again. So you're kind of their choice at that point. So that's pretty much what we're seeing too. So what are you doing about it? Okay. The key to this game is don't talk about the solution until you've completely exhausted the problem. Meaning, because if you jump to the solution too quickly, they didn't have enough chance to make you a trusted advisor, right? They haven't completely confessed, right? The Catholic Church has a complete model for this thing. Just work it, okay? Don't give the Hail Marys at the beginning. They go at the end, right? Okay, so that's how that one works. Okay, so to close on the B2B stuff then, two key principles, and these were the chasm crossing principles. One was this issue of targeting a beachhead market. And the idea that was, there's a tendency in technology to say, look, a network is a network is a network. It doesn't know if it's got like law bits or oil and gas bits or financial services bits. It's bits, right? It's a router, right? It's got a header, it's a router, right? But what happens is the people in banking talk to each other about banking problems. And the people in retail talk to each other about retail problems. And that high-value use case, it's different in each segment. Even though your product is the same, the use case, the trap value is different. And so what you want to do is pick one place of trap value and then just keep your lighter under that wood right there. Maybe this little punched up paper, a little kindling. This is Boy Scouts. We're trying to start a fire here. Okay, and don't jump from beachhead to beachhead to beachhead. Okay, you got to, once you pick one, you got to say, we're not leaving until this thing catches on fire. And the way it catches on fire and stays on fire is you not only do you modify the next release of your product to be even more specific to that use case. That's usually part of the solution. But a lot of it is you get the other players in for the solution, what we call the whole product together. You orchestrate the formation of that. You figure out what service providers, if you're software, what hardware, if you're hardware, what software, what system software, what application software. You pull the thing together. Even if you're not the application leader yourself, you do this, and you make sure it happens. And it's that last bullet. You're taking responsibility for their success. In this stage in your life cycle, you are in service to this problem. You're not in service to your own balance sheet. You're not in service to your own product at this stage. Okay, so that was fine. By the way, I dined out on this for about 15 years. It was a good life, right? The 99 edition came out, and I would say up until about 2003, 2004, it's like, this is great. I'm magical. This is amazing. Somewhere around 2002, 2003, 2004, people going, so Jeff, Google, where's the chasm? Facebook, chasm? WhatsApp, 55 people, $19 billion. Where the hell is the chasm? Right, okay. It's like, okay, so maybe this chasm thing isn't as universal as I thought it was, right? So you start looking at this, you say, why is there, what do you mean there's no chasm in the B2C world? Well, remember the chasm is about high-risk, low-data buying decisions. In the digital B2C world, it's just the opposite. These are low-risk, high-data buying decisions. When you go between Yelp and every other confessional on the internet, you can find out anything about a buying decision before you make it. You can get most of these things for free until you decide you want to pay for them. So they can spread much more virally than anything that we ever imagined before. So all of a sudden, tech went from being really high barriers for a customer to engage to low barriers. And in a way that, even though that was possible before, I have to say, between Google and Facebook and YouTube, it was absolutely mind-blowing to this value. It was just like, what the hell happened? Because it was so not the B2B playbook. And so even after it started happening, you couldn't figure it. People would say, well, these valuations are crazy. These valuations are crazy. These valuations are crazy. By the way, some of them were crazy. But they were based on an entirely different set of principles. We just took us older, particularly if you have some of this stuff, the white stuff. It just took a little while, right? So then it was like, okay, so are there any rules? Do you, Jeff, or do you just want to go to the old age home now and just put a tube in your mouth, you'll be fine? I thought, no, I'm not quite ready to hang it up yet. So what's going on? So so this was digital services, and the thing that they would like to deploy, the user experience. By the way, the word user experience the phrase was never used in the 20th century. In the 20th century, the phrase was user interface. which was that, as you can imagine how emotional and romantic that is. Like, it's Valentine's Day, here's your user interface. But that's how we thought about it. It was a machine, for God's sake. It was a system of record. It was hard to use. They're supposed to be hard to use. If something went wrong, you made a mistake. Right? That's how computers were in the 20th century. In the 21st century, if something goes wrong, the computer designer made a mistake. Right? It's a complete shift in power. The Lean Startup, I think, is as good a place to start. Steve Blank wrote a book called 4 Steps to an Epiphany, because he was at a company called Epiphany. And then Eric Rees did Lean Startup. That's kind of the starting point here. The minimum viable product, the rapid learning. Again, in a low risk, high data thing, you want to get stuff out there. You want to start getting data, right? You want to start getting things going. And in consumer use cases, basically, there's often just a leap to the tornado. There's a virality effect that goes, and we'll talk a bit more about that in just a second. When you look at saying, how do you decompose a B2C strategy in this world, there's 4 sort of gears that drive this thing. And this is a version, there was a guy who came out with something called, the pirate cry is called ARG. Anybody remember ARG? But it was a version of acquire, and it was a bunch of words, but it was more fun than these 4. But basically, I said, I can't do that. I got to have like 4 words that mean something to me. So these are the 4 that meant something to me. So the 4 gears are, the first gear is acquire, and basically that's in a digital world. Can you get somebody? Can you get traffic? The second thing is, can you engage? So if they come, do they stay? Do they stay, do they come back? Do they do whatever it is you want to do on the thing? Is there a way to monetize them? Whether it's advertising or subscription, or can you translate this into money? And then, can you get them to participate in getting you new customers? Can this thing go viral? Okay, so that was enlist. So engage, and when we looked at the gears, the 2 gears that everybody were focusing in, particularly the people that didn't get it at first, then when they looked at these models, they said, well, okay, how much traffic are you getting, and how much money are you making? And so the good thing about that model is these are performance vectors. These are performance metrics. So performance drives revenue, drives growth. So you say, okay, performance-oriented business, you should know your performance metrics. Good. The bad thing is, if you keep on acquiring and monetizing, acquiring and monetizing, acquiring and monetizing, you wear out your welcome pretty damn quickly. Right? And so the ugly is you end up liquidating your brand's goodwill. So you started to build up something, and then you said, give me the money. And people went, oh, well, I'm going to back up. Okay. And so there's a whole generation of entrepreneurs who basically, by focusing on how much traffic they were getting and how much monetization they were doing, they kind of burned through it. You could argue that the guys at MySpace kind of did this. They kind of burned through all of their goodwill through a monetization strategy. Now the other 2 gears don't monetize directly. They're not really performance gears. They're power gears. Power turns up to be the leading indicator in this game, and performance is the trailing indicator. So the idea here is engagement. How often are people coming? How long are they staying? Enlistment. How often will they refer other customers? How often will they refer other customers to the site? How big is their social network to do that? So the cool thing about engagement is, if you create enough engagement, you're building permission to monetize. At some point, people will go, you know what? This is really, I'm into this. Is good. This is the whole freemium model, right? I am willing to be monetized. Now I know I want to be upgraded to be monetized, but I'm willing to do that. And if you can get people enlisted, if your best customers are out at bringing you new customers, you can pretty dramatically reduce the cost of acquisition, because search engine optimization is a very expensive game to play. Search engine advertising is a very expensive form of advertising. So these are the power gears. Now the bad thing is, neither of them generate money in the short term. So you have to sort of say, okay, I'm investing in power to go get performance. But here's the end of it. So when we looked at the whole thing, it took us a while to decode, well, how do you actually play this game? And then the winners kept on doing the same thing. The first thing they actually did is they did not begin with acquisition. They began with engagement. They say, we are going to work on the experience of our site until we think it is really, really compelling. Now, obviously, they're acquiring enough people to get enough data through this process that they can see what people are telling them is compelling, but they're not trying to go out and get a lot of new customers yet. They're trying to create a really compelling offer first. Then, okay, now that I've got a compelling offer, now how broad can I spread the net? How many people can I get to participate in this thing? Now it is an acquisition game. As the acquisition game goes forward, it gets more expensive, so now it becomes increasingly important to enlist. Now what I want to do is I want to get some of my customers to actually go recruit other customers for me. And I might try to build that capability into my product or service. So if you think about how certain products work, other people invited you into that community, and it wasn't through paid advertising. And then at the end, you monetize. And you monetize either yourself. I mean, WhatsApp never monetized. It just sold itself to Facebook. Right? Now, Facebook's going to monetize WhatsApp. But it already has an existing monetization social contract with its environment. WhatsApp didn't have it and didn't need it. So this is a pretty classic path through this thing. And the last thing I'll just say about it is you're playing this path. And this is, by the way, we used to call this path eventually URL, ubiquity now, revenue later. Right? And it really became kind of the key idea, which was a totally foreign concept. It didn't. Anybody who'd been in a B2B world, it didn't make sense. But this is clearly what happened in the B2C world. And in a B2B2C world, this is probably where you start. If you're doing a B2B2C offer, you often do the B2C part first, and then you get to go and take that to the market and show and recruit business sponsors for it. The last thing I'll just say about this is what we've learned about this is prior to the tornado, when you're doing this, stuff happens, it doesn't work. So you have to start thinking, well, what's not working? And we have this idea of one of the gears is going slower than the other three. It's slowing us all down. And I thought I'd give you some examples. So Bing is the search engine business at Microsoft. By the way, if you use Bing, it's a terrific search engine. It works just as well as Google. And it's got cool pictures every morning. And so it's engaging. And it monetizes great. I mean, just monetizes the same way. People buying that, they share those pictures, they do that kind of stuff. Their issue is they've got, they needed to get to 20% of traffic to have a viable business. I think they're just about there. The Bing business is now profitable at Microsoft. That they don't need it to be much more than that because they just need to feed the machine learning beast. That's the most important thing that Bing can do for Microsoft, is feed the machine learning beast. But it has to be its own business, and it needed to acquire more users. So that was its issue. LinkedIn didn't need to acquire more users, is a monetization machine, right? The whole recruiting thing for them. Enlist, people keep on asking you, will you please join me on LinkedIn, right? Their issue was once you joined LinkedIn, you didn't do anything with it. You didn't engage with them. So they've been spending the last 2 or 3 or 4 years with a whole content-oriented thing around trying to get people to engage it with LinkedIn, come together with LinkedIn. WhatsApp, the monetization thing, I kind of said that one. Groupon, I kind of think they blew enlistment. The engagement wasn't that great, but the enlistment was really... The restaurants finally realized, you know what, this is a bad deal for us. And Groupon just kept on exploiting their position. And finally the restaurants just said, you know what, no dice. We're not going to play this game anymore. So the idea behind this is if you're doing a B2C play, or if there's a B2C component to your larger play, figure out in any given quarter, what's our slowest gear? How can we speed it up? And then just focus everything on getting that thing sped up as fast as can. So identify the slowest gear, maintain attention on the other 3 gears, you can't ignore them, and then repeat every quarter until you reach a tipping point or run out of gas. So that was the last slide I had to share. I thought maybe so first of all, thank you very much for being listening. I appreciate that. Maybe we have some microphones here, but like this, if you raise your hand or if you're, over there, go ahead. Do you want to run? Or we can run. Well, I'll just repeat your question. You yell and I'll repeat.
Okay, so back to your B2B model.
And you are, by the way?
Oh, my name's Valerie Connie. I have an early stage startup.
Okay.
We're B2B, but unlike your model, we're not taking a technology and finding an initial vertical and then planning to grow across verticals. We're building a product for a rather large vertical And I'm wondering if this model will work. Here's our current strategy is. We're looking for a way in with a solution to one pane, but with the idea that we'll spread out to more panes, but stay in that one vertical. Can I use the same playbooks?
I think so. I think in that vertical, the best thing you could do first of all is get at least one marquee customer. So what is the vertical?
Agriculture.
Agriculture. So Archer, Midland. I don't know the agriculture companies, okay. But if you pick a major company and you'd probably do a project with them, right. and they would be doing it with you to get ahead of the game. And then after you do that, then what you would like to do is go to the other members of that community saying, look, we're not going to do another project like this, but here's this solution that we think is really cool. And I would pick one pain problem first, just because when you're a no-name company, people don't remember you, but they remember the problem you solve. I can't remember the name of the company, but you're the guys that solved the genetic modified engineering problem, or whatever the hell it is. I've heard about you. I can remember about 1995. Oh, Geoff Moore. Oh, you're the Chasm guy. Okay, so I was the Chasm guy, right? That was my problem. And so that's it should work. Yeah, it should work. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi. I would like to continue a conversation that we had before because I thought it was interesting. So, okay, 4 cases of B2B companies. 1, Marketo. 2, Tableau. 3, Atlassian. 4, I forgot, Salesforce. None of them have started from a niche of like what you would consider like a traditional beachhead. They are probably the biggest B2B successes in the last 10 years.
No, they're not the biggest, but well, Salesforce is, yes, for sure.
Right, so...
Okay, so but the point is, so how is that possible? And this is the conversation we were having earlier. I think part of it is not as... Well, the world has changed. I think that the amount of disruption, because we've absorbed a bunch already, you know, if you say, well, I'm going to Agile and I'm using Atlassian, or I'm using Rally, or I'm using one of these, you know, Agile development things, how disruptive is that? And I do think that the Agile thing is getting faster adoption in tech than it is maybe in financial services. But I would say on the whole, it's certainly spreading well. The Salesforce thing initially, if you remember in 1999, it was disruptive. People didn't believe anybody would ever put their sales data in the cloud. So when Mark starts the company, he actually starts it with a kind of a B2C freemium model. You could actually get like 5 seats of Salesforce for like on a master charge for $65 a seat. And he builds the company up initially out of district sales managers who are saying, look, we have Siebel, I can't use it. My people won't enter anything into it. When they do, it's not true. I need something that works. And so he did, but again, it wasn't radically disruptive. But for him, he did start tech. I mean, and then financial services was his big second move. So I think the point that Luke is making is an important one. I think the more disruptive you are, the more you have to stay very close to this playbook. The more, particularly the more you have to put in place a whole new ecosystem. Like 3D printing is totally disruptive, okay? Just completely disruptive. So 3D printing is going to have a very, very tough chasm to cross. The 4 examples, Marketo was another example. And, you know, the digital marketing thing, it's still spreading out faster in some verticals than others. So it's not like this is completely not usable, but it isn't as, yeah, it's right. It's more, yeah, it's much more ambiguous. I agree with that. And that creates problems when you're trying to install the playbook in your company, because if you have crises of confidence that you agree with. Yes, person right here.
You mentioned that Salesforce started B2C and then eventually migrated over to B2B.
No. They started B2E. They started with like end users though, but as opposed to getting the CIO or getting even the VP of sales, they actually started in the middle.
And then what was the tipping point to where they switched to the model today?
Yeah, it was interesting. So their big marquee account was Merrill Lynch. Prior to Merrill Lynch, everybody said, well, you can get district sales offices to do this, but you know, this is the world where SAP and Oracle and Siebel and PeopleSoft and Salesforce, and they're in the cloud, and nobody will ever put in the cloud. When Merrill Lynch put 10,000 seats into Merrill Lynch, in the cloud, in Salesforce's cloud, In financial services, that was a huge game changer for them. And then I think that after that, man, the other thing that was happening with SaaS is small to medium businesses, for the first time, said, I can get what the big guys have without having to have a data center. Can I play? So it became very compelling. Meanwhile, the big guys who had the data center had just the opposite problem. I can't use that. It's not compatible with my data center. And so actually the top of the market, which is where Oracle and Siebel and PeopleSoft and IBM and everybody was focused, that part didn't adopt SaaS quickly. But small to medium business took off like crazy. And so the SaaS market in general, for the first time in high tech, it actually is developed from the middle, up and down, as opposed to historically what would happen is it would go from the top and trickle down. So that was part of the thing that made it go fast. Yeah.
Middle out.
Okay. Yeah. So I just want to understand your perspective as you look at B2C as compared to B2B. So there's the four the players and then the four gears, right? And it feels like you're positioning these as almost mutually exclusive. But I feel like as enterprise companies enter the SaaS world, both kind of matter, right? You look at a company like Box. I'm in the document management space, a big enterprise document management, E&C. And you look at a place like Box, they started consumer and then they moved up to enterprise. What do you think about that? And how would enterprise companies today wanting to compete there, how do they think about this problem?
So one of the things, this is a great point. Most of the technology in the 90s when this model first came out were focused on what we now call systems of record. Database systems running on a highly secure basis. Companies like Box and Google Apps and this whole decade's been about systems of engagement, more interaction, collaboration, working with each other. So in that model, in a system of engagement, a company is spending money with another company to improve the user experience of their employees, their customers. So that user experience of the employees and customers, that's the B2C part, right? And the issue is, how do I get this company to believe my company is the one to help them do that? So Box in 2007, so Aaron starts the company at USC, and in about 2007 he has the epiphany of saying, Google or somebody else is going to just have OneDrive for Google Drive or whatever drive. Microsoft has OneDrive, and that's going to be a very tough business. But CIOs will want a secure version of this. So he then pivoted Box to do that entirely. So in that world, the B2B part, he needs an enterprise sales force. He brings in a woman named Whitney Bauer from Documentum. She heads up the enterprise side of the business. But they still need to have the user experience. So the CIO now can become a hero because they can give Google-like experience with Microsoft-like security. And so I live at the intersection of Dropbox and SharePoint. If I'm a Box guy, right? I have the security of SharePoint and I have the user experience of Dropbox. What's not to like? And that's sort of like the Box prospectus, right? Yes.
I have a question regarding the product management skills, which are in the B2B company versus B2C companies, and what are some common evolutionary changes you've seen in that role? And user interaction is playing such an important part now in product development.
Yeah, so I think that the key evolution in the classic B2B stuff was more around, can you make the bridge between the use case and the domain expertise that's line of business, particularly when there's no budget yet, before the tornado, and then at the same time make the product management case of how do I further my product and do the right thing technologically. And also I've got competitors, how do I keep up with the feature race in my category. And that ended up being a dialogue which was probably 65% inside the company and only about 35% outside the company. And it was oriented toward trapped value. So it was like, it wasn't the user experience at all. It was more about, does this system create economic returns? And can I, as a marketeer, understand what parts of my product actually release trap value for my customers and what don't? So that, I think there was more sensitivity that way. On the B2C side, I think, let's face it, Apple transformed the entire game. Because all of a sudden it was like, we have to have the user experience of Dropbox. What's not to like? And that's sort of the no, the digital fabric is a platform for human experience. And in fact, all of us right now, how many people are holding their smartphones right now? Just if you're holding your smartphone in your hand, just hold it up. Okay. See, it's a digital fabric. Now, the more boring the speaker, the more this happens faster. But the point is, it's a digital fabric, and so which means that our minds and our hearts and our souls are interoperating with this fabric, and so the user experience goes from being in the B2B thing. It was kind of like nice. It's absolutely critical to the fabric, or you can't be in the fabric, right? And so I do think that if you look at the two worlds, the two new jobs in 2014-15 that describe your issue is in B2B, well, both. There's the data scientist who's doing the machine learning half of this, and there's the user experience design person, and maybe then there's the agile facilitator, and it's kind of like the trilogy of this thing. But it's definitely become much more personal. The user experience design stuff has become really central. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a question.
Oh, there's a person who does want to run. She's getting exercise and feeling very good.
So I had a question about consumers and such. There are early adopters for the iPhone who bought it a bit late. There are for Groupon who didn't sign up till a while. Do they automatically show up? Is that what the implication is, or what does it take?
So I think in the B2B world, the early adopter is someone who's willing to make a high-risk, low-data buying decision. I think with a lot of these consumer devices, you know, if it's the very first time it's ever shown up, like if you bought a 3D printer, for even a consumer one, but even then you say, well, I'm spending $300 or $400 or $500. So if it doesn't work, you know, I have a garage, you know, I'll put it in the garage. And I might have some fun with it, right? So I think the early adopter thing is not as big a deal there. And the more interesting thing in that market is, can it go viral? Can you start creating envy? I mean, the iPhone envy thing was pretty spectacular, and how fast Google spread, just the search engine, was pretty spectacular in terms of how fast those things went. So I think virality turns out to be the really sort of interesting success factor that's still slightly magical, slightly mystical. But it's around enlistment. Engage and enlist, I think, are the keys to virality.
So going back to B2B, so when you are on the the bowling alley, sometimes people come and tell you, oh, we want to do exclusive deal with you. And usually the suggestions like avoid exclusive deal, once you have it, you cannot do anything, so they have pretty much the power, etc. Nevertheless, though, Apple ended up doing it with the AT&T for the iPhone. So my question is like, when do you do it, when you don't?
So the exclusive thing is an appeal largely to a visionary who believes that what they're trying to do is actually create a chasm between them and everybody else. So they actually don't want other people to use it for a while. So it's frequently part of the early market deal. And if you think about Apple going into the phone business, they needed AT&T as much as AT&T needed them. So they did that deal with AT&T. And they wanted, by the way, they wanted a lot from AT&T because remember they wanted to go over the top, and no phone company had ever done that before. So they were both giving each other some interesting stuff. In general, on exclusivity, it's a normal request for early market. It is totally inappropriate for the bowling alley. In the bowling alley, the pragmatists in pain are going, no, I want to see other companies doing this too. We're in this together. So the last thing I want is an exclusive. I actually want, I want everybody in my disease cohort to try your drug, right? Because it'll get better. And so it's only in that early market. And a classic negotiating tactic is you often tell a visionary, look, tell me 2 or 3 or 4 companies you're particularly concerned about, wanting to stay ahead of. We will give you a limited exclusive, couple of years, and that's a fairly classic compromise to get to. Yeah. Okay, it's 7:45. Tell you what, I'll hang around for a few more minutes or whatever, but I think maybe, it's been a good evening, and thanks a lot. Appreciate it.